Hey guys, Comic Boom here to review Batman issue 53. This is the final chapter in the 3-issue arc involving the trial of Mr. Freeze, where Bruce Wayne is the 12th member of the jury to decide whether or not Mr. Freeze is guilty or not guilty of murder. What's the verdict? Let's check it out. Well guys, this is a divisive issue. Tom King has said in more than one interview that this issue, issue 53, is the key. It's one of the most key issues he's going to have in his 103-issue run of Batman. After this, there's another 50 issues of Batman. His run's going to be 103 issues long. I think there's going to be some guest writers there at later on there. But that was interesting that Tom King would say that. What is so special about issue 53 that gives us clues as to what's going on in Tom King's run? Well, Bruce Wayne, as a juror, he does his best, successfully actually, to convince his other 11 members of the jury to find Mr. Freeze not guilty of murdering 3 women, despite Batman's evidence, forensic evidence, and that evidence which is independently verified by another forensic unit of the Gotham Police Department. He basically tells them to ignore the evidence because Batman is not God, and Batman has flaws just like everyone else, and Batman can be wrong. And you shouldn't put Batman on a pedestal because he's not God. If you put Batman on a pedestal, then that means you can't judge him. Just like Job, in the story of Job in the Old Testament. Job was scolded by God when Job basically said to God, why are you punishing me like this? Why are you taking away my friends, my family, my possessions, my property, everything? Why are you taking everything away? Why are you hurting me? And God says, who are you to question me? You know, I am the mountains, the sea. I'm a maker of miracles. You can't question me. I'm God. And Bruce Wayne is saying to the members of the jury, look, Batman isn't God. Don't make him God. Don't put that much pressure on Batman. He's just like everyone else. He can make mistakes. He can make flaws. And Mr. Freeze even thought that Batman was acting out of character when he beat the hell out of Mr. Freeze. So come on, you know, find some reasonable doubt. And lo and behold, that argument worked. It convinced the members of the jury. There's no question that the other 11 members of the jury aren't too quick on the uptake, and they probably qualify for the mental poverty row. Let's just say it. And they'd be right up there with members of the O.J. Simpson jury. Unbelievable. But they found Mr. Freeze not guilty. Now, I gotta say, overall, this is my conclusion as to what's my view of issue 53. I understand exactly what Tom King has done. I understand what he's doing, and I'm going to explain it in a moment here. But I want to give you my overview synopsis right now, and that is to say that as a one-shot issue, I don't even think you need to read this issue in conjunction with the previous two. As a one-shot issue, I think this is an interesting issue in terms of, if you didn't know much about Batman or Bruce Wayne, it's actually kind of interesting to know what Bruce Wayne thinks of his alter ego. And it's very interesting. But in the context of the larger narrative that Tom King is trying to tell, I think it breaks down in it and it fails and it doesn't work very well. Only because it's not consistent and it doesn't seem to jive very well. Too much just doesn't make sense. But again, you can kind of see where Tom King's going. Okay, now what do I mean by that? Well, first I want to give some compliments to this, because if you just view this as a single issue in the context of a 3-issue arc where Bruce Wayne bribes his way onto a jury because he feels he made a mistake as Batman and he wants to make sure that Mr. Freeze gets acquitted, this is an interesting introspection. Again, Bruce Wayne feels so guilty. He appeals emotionally to the members of the jury. And I can tell you this, I'm a lawyer by occupation, but I don't think I'm telling you, anybody watching, something they don't already know, and that is that, you know, juries acquit all the time, or at least it's not uncommon for a jury to acquit someone on non-legal grounds. They're not supposed to, but they do it all the time. That's why lawyers try to appeal to a jury's emotions. You know, if you can't win them on the law, win them on the emotions. You know, win them on the character, win them on something else. You don't need to win points of law when you argue to a jury. You just need to win points of, you just need to convince the jury. It doesn't matter how you do it. You just need to do it. And Bruce Wayne knows that. Bruce Wayne knows people, the Batman knows people, and Bruce Wayne is appealing to the emotions of the jury members, in particular one member of the jury, I think her name is Miss Payne. She was wearing a cross, and so he tries to appeal to her religion, and he tries to appeal to the aspect of God in the context of Batman. And he basically says to the jury members, look, all of you have been saved by Batman one time or the other. You probably think, we all think of Batman as God, that he can do no wrong. And the fact is, there's a danger to that, because Batman's not God. And then he says the story of Job. Job says to God, why did you do all this to me? Why did you hurt me so much? And God says to Job, I'm God, you don't question me. Who are you to question me? And obviously, Bruce Wayne is just appealing, stating something obvious to the jury members, that just remember that Batman's not God. Well, obviously Batman's not God. Jury members aren't stupid, but apparently that appeal worked to them. That seemed to make a lot of sense to the members of the jury, so they acquitted. But it says something very interesting about Bruce Wayne, where he's at emotionally, because he revealed that he's deeply hurt. Clearly, it's revealed here that Bruce Wayne is hurting deeply from the lost wedding, from Selina Kyle leaving him, and he's hurt when that Batman was his faith. Bruce Wayne's father was Christian, and when his parents were murdered in front of him, he lost his faith, which is understandable. You get your parents murdered in front of you, you're gonna lose a lot of faith in humanity, and that's exactly what happened to Bruce Wayne. And Bruce Wayne found his faith in Batman. When that bat flu broke through that window in Wayne Manor and gave him the inspiration to be Batman, it was the persona of Batman that saved Bruce's life, that gave him hope, that gave him something to focus on. And it was his faith in himself, i.e. his other self, Batman, that really saved his life. That's what's implied here. But if something happened when he began to fall more in love with Selina Kyle, is that he discovered that he could actually be happy, and he felt everything was finally falling into place for once. Everything seemed perfect. He was happy. But then Selina leaves him, and things seem to have fallen apart, and he's discovered now that, oh my God, I can't be happy. Here I thought if things were going great as Batman, then I fall in love with Catwoman. Catwoman leaves me, and all of a sudden he suddenly discovers he can't be happy, and he's lost his mojo. He's lost his focus, and he screwed up a case with Mr. Freeze, and he feels that Mr. Freeze is now innocent, and that he let his emotions get the better of him as Batman when he almost beat to death Mr. Freeze, and maybe screwed up and misread the forensic evidence. That doesn't explain how it was independently verified, but just we're going to have to go with Tom King on this one, even though the writing's a little skewed. In any event, Bruce Wayne feels guilty. Bruce Wayne feels intuitively something is off and that Mr. Freeze is likely guilty. It's not clear if Bruce Wayne is aware yet. It doesn't appear that Bruce Wayne is aware that Bane is the one that's actually manipulating things behind the scenes. I think it's clear in the larger narrative that Mr. Freeze is in fact innocent, and that Bane did set up Mr. Freeze all as a way to play and to manipulate psychologically Bruce Wayne, Batman, because Bane knows he doesn't want to destroy Batman physically, because he can't, because Batman always comes back, but he can destroy Bruce Wayne. He can destroy psychologically Batman and cause a schizophrenic rift between the persona of Bruce Wayne and Batman. That's what Bane does. That's what Bane's a master of. And Bane has been at the beginning of this, from the beginning all the way to now. It's always been Bane behind the scenes manipulating all these events. Now, how do I know all this? It's really simple. Tom King told me in an told John Cetris in an interview. That's why. He hasn't shown it in the comic book. Yes, we did see Bane at the end of issue 50, and we know Bane's likely behind a lot of this stuff, but it's really not clear in the narrative. We haven't been given any clues in the narrative other than what Tom King claimed was a clue when the Joker in issue, I think 47 or 48, said the word bananas when asked when he was at another person's house. He gave the clue that the person behind it all was bananas, and that was supposed to refer to Bane. In any event, it's interesting that Bruce Wayne getting in that particular interpretation of Bruce Wayne, that all the pain that Bruce Wayne is going through, that's interesting in a sense. So I can see that from a psychological point of view, or from an introspective point of view, philosophical point of view, some readers might really like that take on Bruce Wayne and the dichotomy between Bruce Wayne and Batman not being God. However, Now let's talk about in the context of the larger narrative and why I think that there's some holes with that. Now, and it primarily focuses around the fact that I just don't buy it that the jury, I know you have to appeal to a jury emotionally, but I'm still surprised that the jury found Mr. Freeze not guilty, given the fact that the forensic evidence was independently verified, and that's by their own admission. I didn't really find the arguments, Bruce Wayne's arguments to 11 members of the jury. I can't believe that all 11 members of the jury actually bought into that, because a lot of it was hogwash. It's also premised on a little bit of a fundamental misapprehension of the story of Job. Now, I'm not going to go into it. I'm going to save my comments for a live stream, because at some point I'm going to be commenting on that. But the story of Job in the context of the Old Testament and Batman being God, I don't think anybody believes that Batman is God in Gotham City. Batman has also been, he's considered a vigilante. He's feared by criminals. He's had his dark side in Gotham as more than a few times. So I find it very hard that, you know, everyone in Gotham would just revere and believe absolutely everything that Batman says. And also, this is an example, I think, of Tom King ignoring continuity, because we're eventually getting into the Superman theory with Doomsday Clock, and we're supposed to be in the middle of a story where the people and the citizens of the DC Universe are becoming more and more suspicious of the superheroes, not putting them on pedestals and what have you. But, of course, Tom King writes his own stories, he ignores continuity, and he clearly, what he's doing here is he's making it very, very clear that, look, Bruce Wayne is hurt, Bruce Wayne's lost his mojo, Batman is unfocused, he's off his game, and he needs to get his mojo back, and somebody else is behind the scenes and manipulating him, and Bruce Wayne is really deeply heartbroken by Catwoman, even though there was no way that Bane could have manipulated Catwoman. There's no way that Bane could have done that. So that doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense why Selina broke up with Batman in the first place. She was convinced Tom King would have us believe that the Joker and then psychotic friend Holly Robinson talked Selina essentially into breaking up with Batman. Absurd. Absolutely absurd. It doesn't make sense. So the chain of the psychological breakdown of Batman, it just doesn't make a lot of sense in terms of what's happened from the beginning. If you follow it through, it doesn't make sense. Also, Batman is on his A game in every other comic book in the DC universe. He's kicking ass in Justice League. He kicked ass in Metal. Batman's been on his A game everywhere else in the DC universe. The only thing in the pages of Batman here, the only person that's really showing up Batman is Selina Kyle. Catwoman actually is the one who stopped the Joker. Catwoman is essentially the only hero in the War of Jokes and Riddles that didn't pick a side. Catwoman was the one that had to defeat Talia al Ghul. It wasn't Batman. Catwoman was the one that defeated the Joker. It wasn't Batman. I mean, the only one that's been showing up Batman in the pages of Batman is Selina Kyle, and they're in love with each other, so that's okay. So why would Selina Kyle break up with him? She's a woman, she's a kick-ass, gorgeous woman, and she's got a man that she's better than. Sounds like a typical relationship, right? So it doesn't really work in the larger narrative. Also, Tom King has failed utterly to provide clues throughout the narrative as to what's going on. It's clear that what he intends is not displayed in the art, and that's quite obvious because it's not possible to convey what Tom King wants to convey by an artist, and even if it was, it clearly hasn't been done. At some point, I'm going to be debating probably Dark Knight on this, and probably some other, and maybe Comic Show, and maybe Nerd Scum, and we'll get into it a little bit because I think it's interesting. But this is a comic book that I think sometimes the best comics are the ones that are divisive, and I really think that this is interesting. This is by far the most interesting from both a very frustrating and annoying perspective, and a very I kind of enjoyed this in a crazy kind of way too. So I'm torn. I'm gonna give this a 6 out of 10 because I think this is by far the most revealing in terms of what Tom King, what he wants to accomplish in terms of where he's going with the narrative and what he's trying to say. We now know that Bruce is off his game, Batman's unfocused, and clearly that's what Bane wants to push and maintain. But I think now slowly it's clear that Batman, Bruce Wayne, is clued in that something is off and that probably somebody, some unknown force, framed Mr. Freeze. And if that's the case, I think moving forward now, slowly we're going to see Batman get his mojo back. And until that 103rd issue, when hopefully maybe we'll actually have a marriage between Catwoman and Batman. I guess we shall see. But guys, let me know what you think of Batman 53. I got all kinds of more things that I can say, but I want to keep this video down. I'm already at, good lord, I'm close to 15 minutes or around there. Too much to say. Let me know what you think in the comments below. And until next time, guys, thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe. Follow me on Twitter at Metropolis40, Comic Boom at Metropolis40. And until next time, Comic Boom out.